Welcome to qnawire.
This question asks us to identify which good would we expect to have the more elastic demand and why. An important thing to keep in mind when we are approaching a question like this is that if the good has more close substitutes, then consumers are in a better position to respond to price shocks to the original good. In other words, more close substitutes usually implies more elastic demand. So let's look at part A. In part A, we're comparing textbooks to mystery novels. Well, we know that mystery novels are essentially a luxury good and have some close substitutes in the form of other types of fiction novels. So I'll consider this elastic in general. And then textbooks, there isn't necessarily much of a choice in which textbook you select. In fact, it's likely that the professor chose this for you. So we would consider this inelastic, or at very least more inelastic than mystery novels. So in terms of which one has more elastic demand, it'd be mystery novels. In part B, we're comparing Beethoven to classical music in general. Well, Beethoven is a subset of classical music, but that just goes to show that Beethoven has other close substitutes within the genre of classical music. Whereas somebody who likes classical would be hard-pressed to find a genre that they like more. So in this case, we would consider Beethoven to have more elastic demand than classical music in general. In part C, if we're comparing subway rides over the next 6 months versus the next 5 years, an important thing to keep in mind here is that the longer the time horizon, the greater the chance that a consumer is able to respond to price shocks. So if consumers notice that for the next 6 months, subway rides are going to be more expensive, there isn't a whole lot that they can do about it over a short time horizon. However, if they know that for the next 5 years, subway rides are going to be more expensive, well, they can probably start planning a bus route or to purchase a bike or some other means of transportation. There's a longer time horizon so they can plan for the price shock or adjust to it. In which case, subway rides over the next 5 years would have more elastic demand in general than subway rides over the next 6 months. And then finally, in part D, root beer would be considered, at least with respect to water, a luxury good. Root beer you can more easily do without than you can water. And so in this case, we would consider root beer to have the more elastic demand.